you've done it again. You felt good for a while, maybe even hopeful, and then something shifted. Now you're back at zero, rebuilding from scratch, wondering why you can't seem to hold on to progress. It's not laziness, it's not weakness, it's something deeper, and it has a psychological name. Here's what it looks like. You work on yourself, you feel better, you build routines, set boundaries, even start trusting people again. Then one bad day hits, a rejection, a failure, a moment of doubt, and the whole structure collapses. You don't just stumble, you reset entirely. You question everything you learned. You pull away from people. You tell yourself you were naive to believe things could be different. And the worst part? You know you're doing it, but knowing doesn't stop it. This pattern isn't random. It's called emotional object impermanence, a term borrowed from developmental psychology. In infants, object permanence is the understanding that things still exist even when you can't see them. Emotional object impermanence works the same way, but with internal states. When you're not actively feeling progress, you forget it ever existed. Let me be clear, this doesn't mean you're broken. It means your emotional memory system developed a specific survival strategy. At some point, probably early, you learned that consistency wasn't safe. Maybe love was conditional. Maybe safety was temporary. Maybe trust led to disappointment. So your brain adapted. It stopped storing emotional gains as permanent. It treated every good feeling as temporary evidence, not lasting truth. This isn't a flaw. It's a defense mechanism that once protected you. Here's what's happening in your brain. Your limbic system, the emotional center, operates on state-dependent memory. This means you encode and recall memories based on your current emotional state. When you're in a low state, your brain literally has trouble accessing memories of high states. They feel unreal, distant, even fabricated. Think of it like this. Your brain has two filing cabinets. One stores evidence I'm okay. One stores evidence I'm not. When you're struggling, you only have access to the second cabinet. The first one locks. There's also something called affect-dependent cognition, the idea that your current mood shapes which thoughts feel true. When you're low, hopeful thoughts don't just feel wrong, they feel dangerous. Because if you believe them and they fail, the crash will hurt even more. So your brain preempts the fall. It resets you to zero before life can. Here's how you start breaking the cycle. 1. Build external anchors, not just internal ones. Your brain won't reliably remember progress, so don't rely on memory alone. Write down specific wins. I held a boundary with my mom on Tuesday. I felt calm after journaling on the 12th. Why it works? External records bypass state-dependent memory. They exist whether you feel them or not. Real-life example. On low days, you read the list. You don't have to believe it, you just have to see it. Over time, the gap between what I wrote and what I feel starts to shrink. 2. Practice micro-permanence. Don't aim for I'm healed. Aim for I was okay for 10 minutes today, and that counts. Why it works? The brain builds object permanence through repetition of small truths, not big leaps. Real-life example. After a good conversation, pause. Say out loud, this happened, it was real. Let your brain tag it as evidence, not exception. 3. Recognize the reset urge as a signal, not a command. When the urge to start over hits, don't fight it, notice it. Ask, what just triggered my filing cabinet to switch? Why it works? Naming the pattern interrupts the automation. It moves the reset from reflex to choice. Real-life example. You have one rough session and think therapy isn't working. Instead of quitting, you write, "I felt discouraged today." That's the reset talking. 4. Let others hold your continuity. Tell someone you trust, "I sometimes forget I'm making progress. Can you remind me when I do?" Why it works? Other people's brains aren't state-dependent to your emotions. They can see your continuity when you can't. Real-life example. A friend says, "You've been calmer lately." You don't feel it, but their observation plants a seed your brain can't ignore. 5. Expect the dip and plan for it. Progress isn't linear. Your brain will test whether the good stuff is real by dropping you into a low state. When it happens, don't interpret it as failure. Interpret it as expected turbulence. Why it works? Prediction reduces threat response. Your amygdala calms when it knows the dip is part of the process. Real-life example. You feel low 3 days after a breakthrough. Instead of panicking, you think, "This is the dip. It doesn't erase Tuesday." Here's the mental model that ties it all together. Think of emotional growth like developing a photograph in a darkroom. The image doesn't appear all at once. It fades in and out. Sometimes it looks like nothing's there. But the chemical reaction is happening, whether you see it or not. Your job isn't to force the image to appear faster. Your job is to keep the photo in the solution and trust the process even when it goes dark. That's what you're doing when you write things down, when you let others reflect you, when you name the reset instead of obeying it. You're keeping yourself in the solution. You're not starting over. You're learning to see in the dark. And one day, you'll look back and realize you've been moving forward the whole time. You just couldn't see it yet.